Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another recording of Hearthstone. Today is Friday, May 31st. It is 5 p.m. Central Time in the United States. Lemon Lover is already on the chat saying hey. Starting late today. Don't really have a great excuse for it. I woke up a little late, but I've been just doing other work and setting up for the stream, and this feels like a lazy Friday already and I haven't even started. Let's see, Shaman class cards or Divine Shield class cards. Let's roll this one. Alright, now I have to win a game with a Rogue Warrior. Yesterday we had the solo adventure happen. I was able to succeed at doing the Delarian heists chapter 4, but I'm still not found any time to do chapter 3. We are at rank 15 right now, so it is a little dangerous. I could knock myself down from rank 15 playing Paladin, or I could knock myself up to rank 14. I'm pretty distracted, quite frankly. There's just a lot. There's just a lot of stuff going on with doing more recordings to do the fall list cleanup, which these recordings will air, I guess, in December. But I need to get them done to close the tabs so I can get my RAM back before I can go back to playing the Doom 2016 reboot. And Destiny Child, the mobile game that I've at this point officially become obsessed with, is taking up time. The Neil Gaiman show on Amazon Prime, Good Omens, came out yesterday evening, so I've been watching some of that and streaming Curb Your Enthusiasm on Amazon Prime too, just to watch it. I've seen a lot of it, but I'm not sure I've seen everything that's available. Lemon Lover says, I was gonna say I was wondering if I had missed you. No, I'm just starting late today, and yesterday was the single player expansion solo adventure gameplay. I didn't even bother typing in the chat yesterday, so I'm fairly certain nobody did get in the chat while I was not looking at it while I was doing the single player expansion, but if there was, I'll put out a general apologies for not looking at it. Yeah, there's really not too much to talk about what I've been doing. Mostly I've just been looking at the fall list. A lot of games on the fall list, quite frankly, are not good enough to have been on the fall list. So I am very happy as I'm working my way up to games starting with the letter H now. I'm very happy to find that my standards have increased quite a bit. But I am also a little afraid that maybe it hasn't. My standards haven't increased enough, because if I'm adding 5 games to the follow list every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, that would be 15 games a week. 15 games times 52 weeks is, you're talking 750 plus just to do the rough math, games being added to the follow list. And I would like to be able to, in a year or 6 months from now, clean up the follow list instead of spending about 2 hours per letter of the alphabet. I'd like to get it done in 3 or 4 episodes or 30-minute episodes, where it's considerably shorter. Because let's face it, YouTube has certainly not done anything to convince people that they want to watch a 2-hour episode of anything. Like, if it were up to me, I would make 2-hour episodes of every game I cover, because then that means less breaks, that means I can get into the flow of gameplay. It is, in my mind, more of a natural experience. When people are playing games, they don't tend to play for 30 minutes and then get up and take a break, unless it's something like the Wii that's telling you to get up and take a break, and even then, I don't think too many people were listening to those warnings. So it's strange, because now YouTube kind of wants people to make 10-minute episodes. Nobody's going to play a video game for 10 minutes and then take a break, and then nobody really wants to watch a 10-minute episode of gameplay per day. Like, I don't think. Well, I lost, and I don't think I actually accomplished much. So since today's the end of the month, I think we'll play on casual going forward. And we needed to play as rogue, so won a game there. So yeah, since there's not a lot to talk about otherwise, we'll just start covering the video game news, which there may be a decent amount of video game news, but maybe we just have a lot of games that came out on Steam, trying to get out before E3 happens.
None can escape my fury.
Man, this so feels like a laid-back, lazy day. And I really don't have any strategy in my head to fix that. The only thing I could do is drink a 5-hour energy drink, extra strength, and that is close to the equivalent of drinking cyanide. It's just so intense. So yeah, let's just cover the video game news. I say it every stream. Let's just see if we can have a quicker experience. I might end up playing a lot of the daily quests off screen. That would make some sense to me and work, because then I would be able to listen to podcasts, which I'm behind on that, and just multitask, continue to watch Good Omens. So far I'm on like episode 3 or 4 of Good Omens, and it looks like it's an interesting story so far. I would question, having not seen anything more of it or read the book or comic book that it's based off, I question the timing of it quite a bit, and already they've had to do a lot of flashbacks to make up for the fact that this book kind of starts 6 days before the end of the world, and then it's got to stretch out the rest of its content to, I guess, what would be a final battle at the end of the world in 6 days. So the entirety of the book, I think, if I were to guess, does take place over the course of 6 days, with just a ton of flashbacks and side stories. Alright, so first game we have on Steam is called World of Mist, which is a free-to-play card game. I probably need to increase my standards on putting card games on the follow list, but I don't really know how to do that, because it really is almost 100% the player base. If a game looks significantly decent, like this looks fine, and people play it, there is a chance it could be the replacement to Hearthstone, as Hearthstone is dying, getting older and older, and eventually gonna die, I'm sure. So I have to put a game like this on the follow list. I really don't even have a choice on it. Speaking of card games, I downloaded the new Yu-Gi-Oh game on Google Play, and then that's an interesting. It looks pretty good, not terrible. Let's see. We can do this.
Swiftly.
We can do this. And then we could do that. And we can do this.
I'm ready to learn.
And then
I'm ready to learn.
Justice is mine.
too late. Too late. Didn't play fast enough. Darn it. So yeah, the new Yu-Gi-Oh game, I don't think I'm really gonna get into it. It does feel like the new Yu-Gi-Oh game is full of in-app purchases and microtransactions, but the animation is a lot better than what previous Yu-Gi-Oh games have been, and that's what they desperately needed, is somebody to come in and start animating the cards and animating the menus and interfaces and make it look like something that is actually a quality product, instead of most of them which look like
I'm ready to learn.
oops.
I shall do as you say. I shall do as you say.
Yeah, most of the
Do as you say. I shall do as you say.
the Yu-Gi-Oh games look terrible. They look like low effort Game Boy games, and they haven't been improved at all. Let's see.
Instruction begins. Justice is mine.
Yeah, I don't think there's a way I'm gonna win this here. Next we have a game on Steam called 4 Kings, 1 War, which looks like it is just a 4-way chess game, probably, and best described as an asset flip game, because they're putting this chessboard in all of these asset flips. But then look at this video trailer. It's like a real human running through the forest for no reason. Like, why are you gonna make this be your trailer? Like, that seems so weird. I guess, speaking of weird, this game is $15.99. Yeah, this is clearly a I don't want to say scam, but low effort game being way overpriced. And playing 4-way chess does not sound particularly appealing to me, because I feel like that would require a lot of extra effort, a lot of extra effort to find people.
Quickly.
I'm ready to learn. I shall
That you
do
would,
as you
that
say.
would be willing to play with you.
Back to the boy.
Instruction begins.
There you go. I did hear a side story. I listened to Penn Jillette, the Magician's podcast, and Penn and Teller are making a VR game with Gearbox, and he talked about how he talked about how he was happy when he's throwing things at squirrels softly, kind of like trying to hit them, but then the squirrels always move out of the way. It is pretty difficult to impossible to actually hit most smaller animals by throwing anything, or shooting it with even like a BB gun might be a little too slow to hit most smaller animals. But the part about that's video games is nothing.
None can
Also on the
escape my
podcast,
fury.
he talked about how they were recording commercials for this VR game, and they made a very weirdly produced, weirdly thought through the commercial, where it is a commercial saying that the VR game is so enthralling and so interesting that they can get a family of anti-vaxxers to play the game, and as they're as the family of anti-vaxxers are playing the game, they're going to jab vaccinations into the kids who, while they're playing the game, and vaccinate them against their will, basically assault them, medically speaking, at least. And that's the commercial. Then it turns out that the family of the actor family that have been hired are actually in real life anti-vaxxers, and so now there's a bit of controversy around that. Already there's controversy around it. It really has nothing to do with the game. It's just seeking out controversy. So almost certainly you will hear in the next few weeks, maybe a month or so, a bunch of mainstream video game journalists talking about how this controversial commercial for a VR game that I think few people will actually buy or have any interest in playing, and depending on the journalist writing it and their opinions, I wouldn't be surprised if half of them say it's a bold stance that needed to be said in the form of a commercial for a VR game made under the production guidance of Penn and Teller. But at least that is a Gearbox story where I don't have to talk about Randy Pitchford. And good news, I don't think I actually do have to talk about him today. See? Lemon Lover says, "See, Rydo, gotta get into the VR." Lemon Lover, you're gonna hate the follow list cleanup, very possibly, because there are so many VR games on the follow list that I am removing or just leaving on my follow list because I am never gonna buy a VR headset. It is totally the number one thing that I'm solidifying on more than anything else. I am seriously doubt I will ever buy a VR headset.
This guy's toast.
I feel like Lemon Lover in particular is trying to get me. It's that joke where all married men tell all single men that marriage is wonderful when they're to their face, but when they're in a group of just married men, they all complain about how awful being married is. I think it's misery loves company. And a little bit of Stockholm syndrome too, and that's been true for a lot of video game consoles and equipment too. Like, I had the Virtual Boy. I paid the regular launch day price for the Virtual Boy. That was a $250 device that my parents paid for it and bought it for me, but it was like $250 for the Virtual Boy with no games, and it within a month was so unwanted that you couldn't even buy it if you wanted to. But in between then, it went down to an incredibly cheap price. And I love the Virtual Boy because I had it, but also there's certainly a level there where there was a commitment there. Like, you've invested in it. Same thing is true for. I always felt that was true for people who bought the Sega Master System Genesis and then also added the 32-bit X extension to it, and then also added the Sega CD add-on to it. If you bought the Sega CD, you've invested so much in that when it first came out, that you had to love the Sega CD. When retrospectively, I don't think there was a lot of Sega CD games out there that were worth playing. Let's see. Let's just wait one turn and play this instead.
This guy's toast.
Let's see. Lemon Lover says ha ha ha, and then you have a Virtual Boy. Theoretically, I have a Virtual Boy. It's in a box somewhere with all my other Nintendo collection stuff in a garage that I assume is still in good condition, even though it's been sitting in a garage for quite a while now. I'm trying to approach the point where I actually give all of my Nintendo collection to a museum. I just haven't really gotten around to doing it. So yeah, there's a Virtual Boy. There's 6 of the like 13 games that were ever made with it. So yeah, probably wouldn't turn on. I wouldn't be surprised if none of those electronics actually turned on anymore. And frankly, if I could turn it on and find it and play it, it would probably be a nightmare scenario. The Virtual Boy was a terrible idea, just because red lasers were the only kind of lasers that existed when it was being developed. So the idea of the Virtual Boy using a laser kind of DLP lens like rear projection TVs use, it was basically the technology. Had they just tabled that idea, Nintendo, and said, we're not gonna make this device until we can have green and blue lasers also, which it's still, even today, would be a little difficult to find green and blue lasers, but it's totally doable. Then it would have been a very different device, but because it only had the only red laser technology existed, you had a red only screen, and it looked amazingly horrible. And it certainly had a lot of other problems with it. Lemon Lovers goes, I know the magical garage that I've heard stories about. I dream of this garage. I dream of rummaging through these fabled boxes, finding Nintendo treasure. Yeah. Well, a lot of it I question if I was to try and put it on, give it to a museum. I question how much of it is in good enough condition for them to really want it and not just throw it away. When donating things, even simple things like clothing to stores, you never really know how much of that just ends up in the dumpster. And frankly, at my point of exhaustion with having it, I'm fine with that. But yeah, there definitely is some stuff that I think very few people have, even if it is in pretty bad condition. But then also, it would probably become very boring too, rather quickly, to go through all of it. Like, the thing about museums is very few people go to museums more than once, at least when they're showing the same collection. And I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of what I would donate would be low low quality products that are put on display so that they can take the mint version of the same thing and put it in their back collection where they're not, that way they don't have to risk somebody breaking the one on display. Most museums, a lot of museums I hear have only display about 10% of what they own anyway, so I wouldn't be surprised if everything I donated just ended up staying in the boxes in their back area. Limo says, no, I'm a big sweaty Nintendo nerd. It could never get boring. It's good to hear that though, because that does mean if I ever do, when I ever do get around to giving it to a museum, there will be hopefully more people that enjoy seeing what I've done. And holding on to all this stuff for years hasn't just been a huge waste of time and energy. But yeah.
Double time and double pay.
I suppose if I was just going to be cynical, and if my YouTube channel actually was successful, I could buy a whole bunch of shelves and do a game room and put it on display on those shelves and do like a walkthrough of all that stuff, but frankly I wouldn't do that. It's just far too much stuff and it would be a waste of energy to unbox it. Next we have a game on Steam called Cricket Captain 2019, which looks like a simulation game where you're not really playing cricket, you're just simulating running a team. $22.49. There's nothing there quality wise that would make me want to put that on the follow list. I may have opened way too many tabs that are bad quality tabs.
I got the best deals anywhere.
Deal 1 damage, draw a card. Random lackey.
To no good. Me too.
Transform a minion into one that costs 1 more.
It's harvest time.
I'm about to lose again. So here we have a game called Saloon VR on Steam. It doesn't look very interesting graphically. It seems like you are the barkeep and you have to mix the drinks and deliver them, so it's one of those standard cooking job games where you're doing somebody's job. It's free, I guess, so the price is right. At least, if you want to pretend to be a barkeeper and throw your drinks at people, which seems to be the way you deliver it, is just literally throwing the drinks.
Got something to hide?
What do we want to do? Like, literally nothing I do matters.
Give me a quest.
There you go. Give me 4 copies of that. So yeah, Saloon VR, both because it's free and because it looks uninteresting, isn't making it to the wish list. Well, at least we played 20 turns there. Yeah. Lemon Lover said that would be amazing. I want to start collecting games and have them shelved. Well, Lemon Lover, I would say follow slickdeals.net, and over the course of maybe 5 years, you will get a good sale on some cheap shelves. If you want to go with glass shelves, you're going to pay through the nose. You're going to need a ton of shelves with a relatively low height per shelf, because if you're collecting games these days, you're collecting something that is even slightly shorter than a Blu-ray case in a lot of instances. I would say avoid large pre-order collectibles, because while those may be slightly rare, they are also probably not very relevant or interesting. You would often be looking for, if you're looking for collectibles in video games, which so many people collect video games, you're going to have to look for things that come out for consoles that are not the standard consoles, or weird sales releases, store releases of PC games, which don't happen very often. Get very familiar with going to junk stores and used game stores, and start making friends with those people. And be prepared to spend at least $10,000 to $30,000 on your collection throughout your life. And frankly, as somebody who has burned out on doing that, who did it basically from 1983 when the NES came out to let's say about 2005, like, you're going to get tired of it. The constant push, the constant struggle. The things that I have that are the rarest are in-store displays. So if you work at a GameStop, or you have a friend that works at a GameStop, and they have in-store displays of video games, those things usually get thrown away or burned. Those things are very rare because they never actually go on sale. But I would also argue, if you're going to collect something, collecting video games is probably one of the worst things to collect, because so many people have already collected it and it's very commoditized. The next big thing, you never know what it is, but it's definitely not going to be what is the current thing.
This guy's toast.
I wouldn't buy collectibles. Like, Funko Pops are kind of a great example of something that sells itself as if it's a collectible, but really isn't going to be a collectible. In the end, you're going to need ridiculous amounts of space. At one point, my entire Nintendo collection, while it was spread out and I was trying to somewhat sort it, was taking up almost 3 10 by 10 foot bedrooms, floor to ceiling on shelves, which is not a reasonable living situation at all. If you were going to get into collecting video games, there is probably a pretty decent way to get a jump start on it just by buying someone else's collection. But also, you're going to have to try to learn your best to not break the things you collect. And mostly, a lot of that comes down to things should stay mint in boxes in the original packaging, so you're not actually going to get to play the games.
Justice is mine.
And you're going to have to think about how dust-free and how humid and how hot the environment in which things are being stored in. And most collectors, regardless of what they're collecting, eventually realize that it becomes more of a job and a burden than something that's fun. When you're doing a real complete collection, I want to try and have everything. A lot of people, though, use the phrase collection in a way I don't recognize as actually collecting, in which they just buy one or two things that interest them, and then they move on with their life, and they don't do anything else. And if that's what people are going to mean by collecting, then that can be a much better experience. Right. If I play this now,
The Brotherhood shall prevail.
alright, that's not too bad. Lemon Lover says, Game Boys in quality condition, and yes, glass shelves are pricey. Yeah, that's definitely true.
And double pay.
And he says, no, I agree with you on the definition of collecting. For example, I go through collecting Game Boys and I want each model, each color of each model, and so on. Yeah, that's what I'm real collectors mean. But then it's kind of ridiculous to go if somebody has five things on their collectible shelves. That is a normal person. So we have to remember that we are the obsessive lunatics that are collecting everything, not normal people that have just 5 things on the shelf. Same is true for DVDs. That's a great example. It's like people will have 10, 20 DVDs on the shelf and they'll say that's their DVD collection, where other people will have movie collections that have 500 movies on the shelf. DVDs, VHSs, Betamaxes, Laserdiscs, things like that. And I can see why people would not want to own that many videos in the modern world, where you can just see most things on streaming services, unless it is something that is really, really rare. And that's kind of where I draw the line too, is that that's
Quest accepted. All of you.
darn it, didn't play fast enough. The anime DVDs are pretty much the only DVDs and Blu-rays that I want to get ever, because almost every other DVD, unless it's a very rare movie, will always be available. Whereas some of the old anime shows, if I hadn't bought those DVDs when they came out, would definitely not be able to easily find. Habani Rime is a great example of that, which is a anime movie series from, I think, the creator of Serial Experiments Lane, and it wasn't very well received, and it didn't sell very many copies. And yeah, you would have a real time trying to find that. Whereas, like, my 20th anniversary Steel 10 Collection Edition of Akira is probably a little hard and a little expensive to get. It's probably a lot easier to get than the Habani Rinne is as a box set, because something that's labeled as a 20th anniversary collector's edition, they, I'm sure, made a lot more copies of it. Of course, I'm getting off on tangents here when I really need to get my victories and move on. So we have a story here for Gamma Sutra. WeQ has acquired and rebranded Booster Studios into to branch into publishing. I think we already talked about this story.
For doom, I will fight with honor.
I don't know who WeQ is, and I don't know who Booster Studios is. So this is kind of an inside baseball information. So let's move on. Next we have a game on Steam called Ninja Rokunexu. I don't even know how you'd pronounce that. That seems like not Japanese. Let's see, it seems like this is a MS Paint looking graphics platforming Ninja Gaiden clone. It's $3.99. I'm unimpressed by it, so I'm not gonna put it on the follow list. Play over here. Next we have a game on Steam called Sleepwalker, which, if this is a really old game that's getting re-released, that might explain why it's not widescreen. That being said, I've never heard of a game called Sleepwalker, and this looks like it is just a clone of the game Back to Bed. I wouldn't be surprised if Back to Bed actually is a clone of this, but it kind of doesn't matter one way or another. It doesn't look interesting, and the game Back to Bed wasn't that interesting anyways. This is discounted for $5.09, which is a rather high price for what I'm looking at. I'm trying to play things with Divine Shield, but I may actually not have any minions with Divine Shield in this deck. I guess I should find that. There's one at 8 mana. There's one at 4 mana. Yeah, there's really not enough Divine Shield minions in this deck that I'm playing to justify playing that.
Job's done.
I need to switch to something else. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Incredible Dracula 4, Game of the Gods. Is this a point-and-click adventure game? No. Seems like it's a resource management game. Or board game. Is there a video that will actually show me some gameplay on this instead of just an animated cutscene? Yeah, this looks like this is just a resource management game, one of these town simulators. $5.59 discounted. There's nothing impressive about that. And there is always something a little suspicious with the number of
Reporting for duty.
the number of sequels some games have. It's like, how can there be an Incredible Dracula 4 when I haven't heard of Incredible Dracula 1, 2, or 3? And maybe that is in part of the reason why people usually don't go to the 4th sequel and they reboot their series, is because they don't want to lose, or they want to gain a new audience, perhaps. Okay. I can do this, but I kind of need to do this. Let's see. Gamatsu has an article, Enchanted in the Moonlight for Switch launches June 13th. This looks like an otome visual novel for the Switch, if I was to guess. It's tagged visual novel, yeah. We're gonna try and burn through all the news pretty quickly here. Particularly if we're just talking about yet another visual novel, of which there's tons of. Sometimes it feels like these videos are getting way too visual novel centric just because we're covering most of the games that are coming out, and that just seems to happen to be the way the cookie crumbles a lot of times. So, coincidentally, next article I have, next tab, is romance visual novel Mel Kiss, coming to PS4, PS Vita, September 26th in Japan, from Gamatsu. So, okay, let's throw that out there. Still games getting announced for the PS Vita. I don't think that's going to happen in the next recording, in the next year. Not recording. But yeah, I think next year we will start to see that being not done anywhere as often. Right.
Reporting for duty.
And start playing here.
Job's done.
Next we have a game on Steam called Heroine of the Sniper. Now, this looks to me like this might be a mobile game where you're playing as a sniper and then they've just put an anime girl in it, or this might be a low effort asset game, or this might be just a game where somebody wanted to make a sniper game and put an anime girl in it just for fun. The actual game is that I'm trying to focus on is the part inside of the circle here, because this kind of doesn't matter. And so this might be an asset flip sniper game, or this might not. Like, even if it was an asset flip sniper game, it's really competing against Sniper Elite and very little other things. Yeah, I think this deserves a follow, just for its weirdness. It's English and Japanese, so let's see.
I wonder.
I'll put some more investigation into this game. This might be a bad game, it might not be. We'll give it 6 months, we'll see what the reviews say. At least 6 months.
Move quickly.
I should have played that. That had a divine shield. Oh well. We'll do this.
The battle.
Get rid of that. And then do that. And in all fairness, if that was a game without an anime girl that was just a sniper game, there is a slight chance I would be less interested in it. So I might just be getting suckered there. Next we have a game on Steam called J-Wing, the next puzzle game. It seems kind of like a Tetris spin of a game, although it might be more accurate to call it a Klax clone, the old game Klax, K-L-A-X. But it also looks like garbage. It's $4.99. I have no interest in that. There's a divine shield. Kill that. Gamatsu has an article here. Devolver Digital announces its Bit Summit 7 Spirits lineup. This event is apparently something new. I've never heard of Bit Summit 7 before this year, but they'll be showing off Enter the Gungeon for the PS4, Xbox One, PC, and Switch. Gato Roboto, or Roboto, I guess it's Roboto, for the Switch and PC. Metal Wolf Chaos XD for the PS4, Xbox One, and PC. The Messenger for PS4, Switch, and PC. My Friend Pedro for Switch and PC, and Pikun Iku for Switch and PC. All of these are not big ticket things, because Devolver Digital really doesn't release big ticket games or publish big ticket games. But a lot of these also are games that are already out unless they're releasing them on new platforms. So they're not really new announcements, it's just a admission of of
Don't test me.
them being shown again.
Reporting for duty.
Yeah, they're just being re-highlighted. Next we have a game on Steam called Boxing Champions. I would like a good boxing game. I'm not sure I'm 100% sold on this art style, and this does feel like this is kind of a fast-paced, kind of more accurate to boxing than, say, Punch-Out, which is really a rhythm game, just hidden behind the facade of boxing. Is there anything here that looks terrible though? No. This might be a mobile game that was properly ported to PC. It's widescreen and such. But I could also see a mobile game playing this pretty easily. It's $10.49 discounted right now. A bunch of language support, it says. Control scheme support of some sort. Yeah. I think this deserves a follow. This might be the VR, not VR, the boxing game I've been looking for many years at this point.
The battle for justice.
I don't think I have any more divine shields, so I might as well win. No, I still have to play 3 more Divine Shield cards. Jeez. Can I get to the point when covering games on here where I can just say no, just no? Or do I need to be more descriptive and more of a news reporter? I think I have to be descriptive as a news reporter. Me just saying no to something because it's a dual match 3 game, it would be the equivalent of CNN just said Trump, and then 5 minutes of blowing raspberries and going, man, I did not even do a good raspberry there. Like that's unprofessional and uninformative and unhelpful. So we have Snow Jewels. It's a match 3 game. It's $2.24 discounted. Bunch of languages supported. I have no interest in playing any match 3 game unless it's got some interesting spin to it, like Honeypot, which is frankly to say, if you don't interest my inner pervert in some way or do something else as different or surprising or enthralling, I won't play your match 3 game. Next we have a game on Steam called Rotatex, which seems like a rotate the world. There was a Metroidvania game that on the fall list that you would rotate the world 180 degrees, and it looked like it would just make me motion sick and confused every time I used that ability. This seems like something I really wouldn't want to spend the time or effort to try to wrap my brain around. It's early access, discounted to $7.19. I've got to play over here. It supports English only, and yeah, Rotatex is not making it to the fall list. Let's see, we don't need to talk about that. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Missed Messages, which seems like it's kind of more of a point and click visual novel element where you're interacting with things. There was a picture there of Puglia Magica Modica in the screen, and then it has this kind of colored pencil style of drawing things, and then it seems like you spend a lot of time in the game just hanging around your room or your friend's room. Let's see. Something, I can't read this first word. GIFs, iPhone, airdrops you, accept or decline. A love/horror story about death and life, death, and memes. This seems like it's a weird game that seems to be targeting a weird audience, quite frankly. It's free, I guess, but then $4.99 if you want to support it. It says it has 4 English audio, it says it has 4 achievements, like it says it has 4 endings with 30 minutes, so it's a really short and simplistic visual novel, for lack of a better term. I'm gonna leave this open, but I'm not actually gonna put this on the follow list. This art style, if embraced, and if you put it as a much bigger game where I could play it longer and learn to love that art style, might catch my attention.
Let's move quickly.
But spending maybe 2 hours at most on it does not seem like something that I would have enough time to grow to love it. And I guess in a weird way, a visual novel where it's trying to say anything, if the story is only like 30 minutes long, it's gonna be really hard to get into that story. And that's why I assume all the top tier AAA visual novel games out there have at least 60 hours of gameplay in them, is because you have to work your way into it, and you can't just say the 2 characters are in love or 2 characters are best friends. You have to show me why they're best friends or why they're in love. You have to make me feel those emotions and know the reasons behind it.
Access denied.
Let's see. Lifesteal? Do I really need lifesteal? Not right now. Next, we have a game on Steam called Hopper Rabbit, which looks like a low-effort asset flip game where you're shooting guns as a rabbit working around a pretty ugly-looking designed world. Yeah. This is just not visually appealing at all. I can't really call this an art style, I just call it being very blown out and CG smoothed. Just a lot of smoothing going on there. $4.99, English and Turkish. And see, if this was a kid's game, I wouldn't give it to a kid because it looks weird to me, and it has guns in it. Even if they're zapper guns, so it doesn't look like a good game. And I think particularly giving bad games to kids is one of the worst mistakes you can make over anything else. I still don't think I've played enough cards that I don't think I've played enough Divine Shield cards yet, so I'm going to try and stretch this game out. Next, GameIndustry.biz has an article, Take-Two head likens free-to-play publishing to gambling, which is an interesting thing, certainly, but I don't think Take-Two has been 100% blameless in being anti-consumer when Take-Two is the one that's releasing like the Call of Duty Modern Warfare elements as DLC and pre-order elements, even though Borderlands has been mostly immune from that style of sales gimmicks, even Borderlands does have a decent amount of
That minion already attacked.
that Borderlands does have like a decent amount of DLC that it sells, and it's pushing pre-orders for Borderlands 3 more than the previous games felt like they were being pushed. Let's see. And Hearthstone is an example of a free-to-play game where they kind of failed to monetize a lot, so it makes it rather easy. You buy packs, and I guess at that point you are gambling because you're buying a something for money and not knowing what you're actually getting. So sure, Hearthstone could be gambling, but I've seen it done a lot worse, so I guess it's a matter of what's your scale and how much is too much. But I would also say Telltale Games. If some of the Telltale games had come out, I don't think any of them did, but if some of them had come out as free to play for the first episode and then you had to pay for the remaining episodes, I don't consider that particularly gambling. There definitely are some free-to-play games, or games at least labeled free-to-play on Steam, that have no in-app purchases whatsoever, and I don't see how you call that gambling either. This is kind of the catch-22 without even really reading the article, which could be saying something completely different. The catch-22 of the video game industry is that if any CEO from any major video game company comes out against microtransactions in particular, and I wouldn't come out against free-to-play, I think that's the wrong phrase to use, is reoccurring microtransactions in general, loot boxes specifically, but if any major CEO comes out against it, their company is certainly not blameless, probably, of doing that. So they kind of need to say, we admit that some of the things we've done in the past are wrong, and we're not going to do it anymore. And in a funny way, I guess that's something that would be better for the world in general, is if people stopped pointing fingers at other people and just instead realized what they were doing wrong and promised to do better in the future. Because it's not particularly helpful to point the blame at somebody else when you know that other person is aware of what they're doing and not likely to change what they're doing. You're really just trying to distract from your own actions. It would be a good attitude if all corporations and all people and all real human beings would just say, I can control my actions, I know what I'm doing, I've recognized something that I would like to improve in my behavior, and I'd like to work on that. And that certainly is a hard thing to do a lot of times, and it requires a mature adult attitude to do, but it's really the only way we'll see any progress. Moving on, we have a story from Gamatsu. A real-time strategy action platformer hybrid called Smelter has been announced for the PS4, Switch, and PC. It looks like you have Adam and Eve here being blown up by a nuclear bomb, so that's an interesting image. And then it looks like the rest of this game is 8-bit in retro in its art style, but I can't really tell anything else about it, so I'm gonna watch this trailer and see if I can get any kind of idea.
Move quickly. Job done.
Yeah, the trailer is showing 8-bit Adam and Eve, and then now they are
Welcome to their show.
in some kind of platforming jumping game, being chased by a giant worm amongst other enemies. Interestingly, also, it seems like Adam ate the fruit first and not Eve in this depiction of the story, which is not biblically accurate.
Converting stored energy.
I don't really think there's much to do with Adam and Eve, because as characters, if you're gonna make your characters around that idea, it doesn't, they're not really anything but simplistic analogies of humans in general. They don't have any story. Genesis chapter 1 pretty much describes Adam and Eve, and by the time you're into, I think, about chapter 3, it's been a while, you're already on to Cain and Abel, and so they don't have any real characterization, and they're intentionally blank slates. And if the idea that to have the characters that are playing Adam and Eve be Adam and Eve, if the idea is they're just going to be wandering around in fig leaves the entire game, that pretty much loses its joke or its appeal of when you make an 8-bit pixel art game. And it feels like this game, Smelter, might just be going through a lot of stories of the Bible later. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a Tower of Babel and a Sodom and Gomorrah and things like that.
For justice.
But then there also seems to be definitely some alien or sci-fi fantasy elements being combined too. So this game in general just looks weird and feels weird. Apparently you're playing as Eve and you team up with mysterious armor in search of Adam. Okay.
Speak to me.
I would not be surprised if this game is really just trying to be provocative for provocation's sake, and it will be a very generic, very boring game when it actually comes out. The thing I would say, a similar thing happened in Darksiders, and there is a story later of a new Darksiders game being announced that doesn't seem like it's the 4th game in the series. But in Darksiders 2, for a brief cutscene, you see you're introduced to Lilith, the mother of all the 4 horsemen of Apocalypse, and she was an interesting looking character, but then they really didn't do anything with her in the 2nd game, and I haven't played the 3rd game, but I don't think Lilith is going to play too much of a role in that either. The big bad of the series seems to be Samael, and he seems to just be shown in cutscenes, whereas in Darksiders 2 the main person that you're dealing with as the boss is just the Crowfather, a character that's introduced and then killed and really didn't seem very interesting. And I think that's true for anything that wants to be even slightly inspired by the Bible, because you either take those general ideas and you fully embrace that whatever you say is not going to be 100% accurate, therefore it is to a lot of people going to be sacrilegious, and you make something like the Binding of Isaac Reborn, the Binding of Isaac series. Yeah, because that's taking characters from the Bible and just saying, I'm going to do what I want to do with it. I know it's going to be sacrilegious. I know extreme Christians are going to hate my game. And that's in part the point. Or you go the other direction, and nobody, to my knowledge, has ever succeeded at this, and you make a game where you literally are word for word, as accurately as possible, following the events of the Bible, perhaps just changing the artistic style so it looks a little bit different, which is kind of what Assassin's Creed tried to do, but then very quickly got away from that. The first 4 games or so, you were seeing flashbacks via the Apple of Eden, I believe, showing that there was a Adam and Eve in the ancient aliens futuristic society that was stealing the apple.
Welcome to the show.
So it was the same words, it was just shown in a visually different perspective. But even if you were going to do that, I don't think that there's enough stories in the Bible, particularly that you would want to touch, to tell a full story and make a full game out of that. And I'm not sure how many people would really want to play that. Okay, so we're done with the Americas account. Let's now switch over. Let's just double make sure I did the Tavern Brawl before that disappears. Switch over to the European account. One of the games on the playlist that I thought about playing was a game, I believe it was called Battle of the Gods, where you could play as Jesus and fight Santa Claus, and I was like, yeah, in this modern day, that would just be more controversy than it's worth to play that game. Alright, so I made it to rank 18 on the European account. The European account's a little earlier with that, so let's see what we got. I got a gold card back, we got 20 dust, and we've got a pretty nice looking card back there. And then it's going to throw me down to, what is this, 21? If I could figure out a way to just spend 3 hours playing the Americas account only, I think at this point I would potentially consider abandoning the Asian account, and I'd also probably consider abandoning the European account at that point too. Alright, we need to watch and learn, so let's watch this high ranked guy. He's at like rank 4. Meanwhile, we'll cover the news. An adventure RPG, Bug Fables, has been announced for PS4, Switch, and PC. Might be an interesting game. I'm always looking for a game where you play as a bug, but generally I'm looking for more of an ant farm simulator style game, not a game that's an RPG. This also might just be a very generic, boring RPG game. So, really can't do anything about it since it's just being announced. Next game we have on Steam is called Bomb Gears, which I don't see any bombs or gears or anything. It just looks like an asset flip of a square location. I have no idea what the gameplay is. So they're just like 2 creatures on the playfield, and you're just trying to angle a tank shot, which would be a mortar, not a bomb. Anyways. Yeah, it really looks like there's just no game here at all. Early access $4.99. English only. I have no interest in that game. TechRaptor has an article. Ghostbusters, the video game remaster, is coming this year. We now have official confirmation. This has been rumored and leaked for a while now, that they were going to remaster the old game, which frankly the old game that came out in 2009 could definitely use a remaster. So if the game runs smoother and looks a little bit better, and they give me a free upgrade because I own the original game, which is not available for purchase on Steam and hasn't been for a while, that would be great. If they're going to make me pay or give me a coupon for the game, I probably wouldn't buy the remaster. There's not really a lot of good reason why you would want to play the game a second time right now. I know that they're trying to set up some hype to make another Ghostbusters movie with the original cast, and I think that movie will probably happen, but I don't think the video game and the new movie will have anything in connection. Best case scenario I could guess is that the new movie is, for the most part, just the story that happens in the video game. But yeah, I don't think there's anything else to be taken from that. So I definitely don't feel like I do for Portal 1, Portal 2 being some of my favorite games. Like, if there was a remaster of Portal 1 or Portal 2, I'd go back and play it immediately. But being a remaster of just the Ghostbuster games, if I get a free upgrade, great. I'll be happy with that. But I don't think that would really push me to want to buy it. I think all of these cards will probably be dusted. That being said, for new people that don't have Ghostbusters, I guess you're fine at that point. Apparently I opened some other packs that needed to be dusted also. So we've got some more dust. Let's see what it think is new. Let's see. This gold one, which can be disenchanted. This one. I think Disguised Toast was making a video where he was joking, saying cards were going to get buffed. I have not seen any indication of any cards being buffed, only really nerfed. So I think he was joking there. We'll make this our new favorite card back. We've had the pizza card back for a while now. So, alright, and then that puts us, we need to play combo cards and we need to play beasts, which means we need to play ranked. I had to get 3 extra Tavern Brawl victories for that. Let's jump in here. I'm just going to purchase week 4 because I don't think I got around to doing that.
Magical.
I promised
haven't
Rafa
played any of this.
that we will win over the merchant district by any means.
There we go. So next Thursday I'll purchase 5 and not get around to doing any of this. They really should have released that solo adventure a month before the card packs were available to play. That would have worked, I think, a lot better. Tech Raptor has a story, and I don't know what in the world is going on with Tech Raptor in this game. They either really, really love it, or they're getting paid to promote it. But they have yet another story talking about Vanbridge Cold Souls. The update features difficulty tweaks, which was a major complaint that I was seeing of people on Steam. So maybe now they're trying to address the fact that they reviewed the game too highly and they're out of line compared to every other person who's reviewed the game. I don't know. But yeah, if you didn't like Vanbridge Cold Souls before the update, maybe the difficulty tweaks will fix it, and maybe it's worth a second look at if you already own the game and aren't going to refund it or can't refund it. but in its first impression, and that is certainly something that I have had to think about as I'm doing the follow list cleanup, is just what is the first impression that this game displayed, and if it's a bad first impression, they just are going to have to live with that, and they probably are never going to be able to recover from that. And Vampir's Cold Souls gave a bad first impression. And personally, I think in my own personal life, I'm probably pretty bad at first impressions myself. So I feel their pain, but it just is the way things are. Moving on, Gamma Sutra has an article. GameStop CEO and CFO Rob Lloyd steps down amid an executive shuffle. GameStop is just hemorrhaging money, it seems like. Of course, the markets aren't doing too great right now in the United States anyways, because Donald Trump is threatening or has imposed a 5% import tax on Mexico. So he's doing now a trade war on two fronts, both China and Mexico, and possibly Canada too, and I wouldn't be surprised if he tries to do it on several other fronts. It is an interesting thought about how bad can a president be in the United States about running tariffs and imposing tariffs and taxes, which constitutionally, as I understand it, is his purview to impose tariffs and taxes. But how bad can you be about that before there is just a full-scale revolt and the Congress, and the House and Senate either convince the president to quit, which I don't think would ever happen with Donald Trump, or impeach him. And see, I don't think you could ever claim that the executive actions of a president, even if they seem to be obviously 100% in the wrong, in the interest against the United States,
This guy's toast.
aren't his executive privilege to do, or that they are treasonous or impeachable offenses to make a bad deal or make a bad call. If that was the case, then every president would get impeached for bad tariffs. Of course, that's not video game news, and I really don't have time to go on rants. So let's move on.
This guy's toast. Hey, lights out.
Here we go.
I'm supposed to be playing combo cards, so this is a combo card also. GameStop's problems, though, don't specifically stem just from general economic problems. GameStop's problems stems from how they run their companies and their business plan in the first place. And I've said it before, if they had run their company better, they would have bought Toys R Us and turned Toys R Us and GameStop's into a combined powerhouse of video games and toy stores. And clothing stores, which GameStop has never embraced, selling clothing, t-shirts and such, which would have probably made some sense.
I usually work alone. Hey, lights out. Hey, lights out.
I want to get victories here, so I'm gonna take the victory even if I don't have all of the combo cards played. Next, we have a story from Gamatsu. Microsoft E3 2019 press conference will feature 14 titles for Xbox Game Studio. By the way, Microsoft, in a different story, has announced that they're bringing I think all new titles and a lot of the old titles to Steam that they own. They've also expanded their support on the Windows 10 store. The Giant Beastcast podcast could not wrap their head around what was being explained, but they've expanded support so that you can now have at least games with 32-bit applications. Before this point, we need to play as Hunter. The only kinds of programs that were allowed to be sold on the game store were, there's some kind of universal web page HTML5 type program. There is the universal Windows platform programs, so those are basically .uwps, and then there were 64-bit exe files. So most games are still 32-bit games, even though most processors these days are 64-bit processors. The real difference there is only just, is it going to use more than 2 gigabytes of RAM? And a lot of games are optimized not to use more than 2 gigabytes of RAM. That's kind of the only big difference there. So there's a ton of old games. I would say maybe as high as 90% of every game on Steam is a 32-bit exe, and Windows was just not supporting them. So while Microsoft is saying, yeah, we're going to Steam, they're also opening the door to say a lot of games that are on Steam because they couldn't be sold on the Windows Store can now be sold on the Windows Store, which would be a lot better for Microsoft, quite frankly, if they could get anybody to actually want to use the Windows Store, which is a huge if, certainly.
That's not a valid target.
Just leave that alone. There's really not a lot to worry about as far as the 32-bit software. The bigger thing to worry about is just to see how fast and how efficient and how well our game's going to be listed and our game's going to play on Steam, which is probably better than the Windows Store. I certainly don't think I deserve any credit for this decision, but I do recall that I tweeted out that I really would have liked to seen Crackdown 1, even if it was bundled with the Crackdown 2 game come out on the Steam storefront when Crackdown 3 came out. And I tweeted that out to, I think, Major Nelson only 4 or 5 months ago. So that's something I think his secretary probably saw, and he probably got that message from a lot of people. Anyways, this story is 14 game titles. Do we know what the game titles are? The ones they're talking about so far are Battletoads, Gears 5, Halo Infinite, Ori and the Will of Wisps. You've got Gears 5 and Halo Infinite coming out very close together. It would have been nice if they delayed one of those a year longer. Frankly, I think if they delayed Halo another year, it probably could be a lot better game, where I think Gears 5 will be a satisfactory quality game when it comes out. And Battletoads doesn't really mean anything to me as far as an option. Let's see. Well, play this first. This. Just play this. And this will be a freezing trap. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Axon Ships Low Poly. That sounds like a low effort name and an excuse for a low effort game. This seems to be Dark Screenshot Syndrome style space shooter type game. Whatever it is, it's unimpressive. It's free, so I guess the price is right. English only. But I really don't want to give it any more time of day. Wow, that card back makes your deck look particularly different to this blue, particularly compared to the blue. Let's see.
I hunt alone.
See, Komatsu has an article, PC Gaming Show 2019 adds Coffee Stain Studios and more. So this is kind of a secondary announcement for the PC Gaming Show. How many announcements should I talk about before E3, which is just an event for a bunch of announcements? I mean, seriously, it is getting down to the point where it's just announcement on top of announcement on top of announcement on top of announcement.
I hunt alone.
Next we have an article, Ninjala has been delayed to spring of 2020. More time needed to implement improvements and polish the game. I've never heard of this game, Ninjala, but it looks rather interesting. There's a teaser trailer here. See, how this game got announced and I missed it or forgot it is confusing, because I swear I've never seen this. It looks like a Splatoon game where instead of playing Splatoon you're running around doing something, chewing bubblegum and swinging batons and fighting each other all over an environment. It seems rather ambitious what's being shown here, because you're not probably going to make a great fighting game this way, so you're making something different. This is clearly heavily inspired by Splatoon, but yeah. Interesting. It's interesting that to specifically become interested in a game because it's been delayed. Of course, now I'll probably forget the game completely by the time it comes out in spring of 2020. And see, I need to just play 2 more beasts and I'm done. I may want to stick or come back here and play some more ranked to try to get up in rank play. Gematsu has an article, E3 Coliseum 2019 schedule announced, confirms new Darksiders games. So a new Darksider that takes the franchise in a fresh direction has been announced. I wouldn't be surprised if Darksiders Genesis is some kind of mobile game or side story that is really unwelcome. Like the thing particularly is they don't have, THQ Nordic does not have the clout for, I guess that's the right term. They really don't have the clout to be making a side story Darksiders game that takes it in a new direction, when nearly every game has been taking it in a slightly different direction, and quite frankly the only direction people seem to have liked was Darksiders 1, and people really didn't like Darksiders 3, and that came out only a few months ago. So unless this is some attempt to make a soft reboot of the series and tell the same story in a completely different style of gameplay. I'm thinking maybe like a Telltale game. I guess you could probably tell the Darksiders story in a Telltale game and then catch people up so that they would be ready to play Darksiders 4. But then Darksiders 4 would be a disappointment because then it's gonna be hopefully like Darksiders 1. Yeah, the whole series is a mess at this point. And Darksiders 3 was the one that had the opportunity to get it back on track. And I do think they eventually updated that game to make it playable and decent, in a decent experience. But so many people played it before the updates and the patch that came in that their experience was kind of ruined because they tried to make it feel like a Dark Souls game instead of just sticking to a Legend of Zelda action style game. Moving on, Gematsu has an article, Bloodstained Ritual of the Night adds a playable Zangetsu, which would be a sword, I believe is what a Zangetsu is. The Japanese release has been delayed due to unforeseen logistical difficulties, so it's being delayed again, I believe. Like, and I don't know how you don't announce how you announce more content being added to your game at the same time as you announce a delay and not make it feel like you're just adding feature creep to the game, because that's really what this feels like. Let's see. There's nothing else I can do. Zangetsu, I believe, was the name of several anime characters' swords. I think maybe Zangetsus are a style of katana that are maybe a little bit longer, or maybe it's
I must consider.
maybe, yeah, the name of the sword is the Zangetsu To katana. And okay, yeah, like what is that? What does that really mean? It kind of means nothing other than they're trying to hide the fact that the game seems to have been delayed yet again. Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, I still want it to succeed, but they certainly are doing a standard thing of a Japanese indie developer in which they're delaying the game a lot. So that worked pretty well. Moving on, we have a story from Gematsu. Magica Record Puglia Magica Modica Magica side story launches June 25th in the US and Canada. This is a Madoka Magica smartphone game. I might check this out as somebody who likes the anime series. It is also worth mentioning the anime series is dark and kind of horrific in its storytelling, and this all in pink magical girl display is designed to sucker you in and make you think you're just playing a game designed or watching an anime designed for little girls, and it really isn't unless you want to traumatize your little girl. But it's very popular for its twist, so I might check this out, but I don't cover smartphone games on my channel, but I might report back. It's probably, when you look at a game like this, almost certainly full of microtransactions. It seems like there's a currency here, a currency here, a currency here, Seems like you'll be getting daily gifts and email messages, which is probably going to involve friending people. Seems like there's probably a storefront, probably a story mode, probably a player versus player mode, and several other daily quests and more things that you could purchase. So I would not be surprised, being a Japanese game in particular, if this is a rather expensive game if you're going to try and stay up with it and play it. I don't know if you're going to be just always playing as Modica or if you're going to unlock some of the other characters. I don't know how it could be a gacha game though, because there aren't that many magical girls in the series. Yeah, 5, maybe 6 or 7 have been shown as far as I know. So the idea of unlocking other outfits, probably true, but not too many outfits, and other characters may be true throughout the story mode, but I bet not that many characters either.
I got the best deals anywhere.
I would also say that Madoka Magica's anime has a very distinctive, different looking animation style when they're in fights and the enemies are drawn. It kind of looks like a French puppetry paper mache characters. Very flat, very different, very strange. You really couldn't confuse it for much of anything else. And that's not being shown in this game, but it is certainly something I would say worth looking at. I don't know if I can call it good or bad, really. Just different and unique. And different and unique is usually always good. Almost always good. Let's see. Let's keep on playing. Moving on, Gamma Sutra has an article. Get a job. Harmonix is hiring a senior server engineer. This would be out of Boston, Massachusetts. They're looking for somebody, I assume, to run their servers for Rock Band Live, I would guess. Unless they're planning on making a new game. Although, what servers do they use? Let's see if they mention any of that. Yeah, there's no mention so far as what they want to use. They want to use Python or Ruby, Django or Rails. This is just to service a website, not a service a game. So they just are looking for somebody to keep their website running. Interesting. I was thinking more of a AWS server engineer that would help them have their game run off of either Amazon's web cloud services or off of Google's servers or Microsoft's Azure servers. But no, they just want somebody to make sure their website stays up. So they probably lost their senior server engineer. And it's odd that they can't hire internally to fix that. That's a little weird too. Like, you would want to see people getting promoted internally, because those employees, if they've been working hard and doing a good job, should deserve a promotion. So anytime you see a senior position being listed, is questionable. Not super questionable because they may have somebody in mind internally and they're just pretending like they're considering all applicants. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article. Red Faction Evolution has been leaked by NVIDIA Ansel. Isn't Ansel the... Oh, Ansel is like the screenshot software you put in your game. Apparently, they accidentally put the information on the Ansel compatibility page. Okay, well, Red Faction Evolution might be coming out. That may be good, may be bad. I guess it really comes down to what's the level of quality that the games will be. So, next we have the game Little Misfortune out on Steam, which is weird because this was already on Steam. So, they either removed it and put it back on here. It doesn't have a release date though. And at this point, I don't think I want games on the follow list until they have a release date. Even when it is a game that was a top trending game as far as the demo was being shown off for at least a day on YouTube. And this does look like a very interesting game that I'd like to play, where you're an evil voice and presence telling this little French girl to do things to put her in the line of danger and try and kill her. It's an interesting concept, but there's nothing here yet. And frankly, this might be one of those games that is trying to hype itself up so much that it's not actually ever going to meet that level of hype or remember to come out and be a final product. Wow, he healed a lot. It's not gonna do him any good though. So next game we have on Steam is called Epic Food Fight VR. This looks like a bunch of asset flipped characters who you're just gonna be shooting or throwing food at. It doesn't look like a interesting visually designed game. The idea of a food fight, particularly if you probably would just want to focus down to a pie fight more than all kinds of varieties of food, because every bit of food you add would have to be the equivalent of a different gun that does something different, and then that would be a lot of game development. But yeah, a somewhat realistic pie fight game in VR might be interesting for about 5 minutes. I don't know if it goes any further than this. As for this VR game, it's $8.99 in English only as language. It's also an early access, and yeah, visually it's unimpressive. Yeah, I'm gonna win just because he's gonna have to draw a card and fatigue.
You have better.
Let's stick on this until we lose the win streak bonus. We still have a lot to cover as far as news, so I'm gonna just stick with this until we lose. Next, we have an article from TechRaptor. A Metroidvania game called Time Spinner is coming to Switch and Xbox One. Did this come out for PC? 2018.
Rexa versus Rexa.
The game had previously been available for the PS4, PS Vita, Windows, Mac, and Linux. You know, It already is available and it's just getting re-released like so many other games. I don't recall this game though. I don't think I've seen it. And it doesn't look terrible. And I am still kind of looking for good Metroidvania style games. So yeah. I'm gonna double check and see that this is on my wish list, or maybe I even own it. I found out that I own Res Infinite, and I even have it on my short list of games I want to play, and I had forgotten about it. It really has gotten crazy to having over 1,000 games on Steam. It's like, I know I've covered probably about 100 of them, and then I could suspect that about 500 more of them are games I'll never get around to playing and don't really care that too much to cover. But there's still more games than I can hold in my head on that list. And if they improve the way the list, your library was shown to you on Steam, which they're working on doing that, there is a chance that I could organize things more and do a little bit of a better job. But the general sentiment is I just have a lot of work to do still if I'm going to try and cover most of the games I own. Next we have a game on Steam called Winter Fury: The Longest Road. I don't know this developer, this publisher. This is a VR game where you're playing as in a tank. It looks like it might be an on-rails shooter, for lack of a better term. This doesn't look terrible though. It's early access, it's $19.99, it has full audio English. I think this deserves a follow. If it comes out of early access in 6 months, it would still stay on the follow list because it's a VR game, but this kind of does look like much better than your average shooting military VR game that's out there. Where am I? I'm really suffering by not having the Great Suspender extension actually working. It's hard to see which tab I'm on, because it changes the icons of the tabs when they're suspended, so I previously would be able to see, oh, everything to the right of this point is suspended and everything to the left of this point is not suspended. And it really isn't saving me a lot of time by having the tabs unsuspended. I suppose when they are suspended I have to click on them, and that is adding maybe 3, 4, 5 seconds per page in between talking about something, but that's not really worth it when you have to deal with other problems. Next we have a game on Steam called Prince of Cats, which is looks like a visual novel from an old school developer. So this is kind of a visual novel before visual novels may have existed, if this was actually an old game, or this is just a Western visual novel that's not widescreen for some reason. This probably could be what I call Western art, the Western art style. It needs a little bit more polish and skill. But yeah, that definitely doesn't feel like it's influenced by anime. It feels like it's influenced by oil paintings. That being said, Prince of Cats is $9.99. It's in a bundle for $14.97. It's English only. It doesn't have full audio support. And yeah, it does not particularly look like a particularly interesting visual novel to play. And my standards as far as visual novels need to be as high as possible. Alright. Let's do this. We gotta do this. And then do that. And I think we gotta do that. And do that. I played that poorly. I should have killed the other one first. Let me just double check how unfamily friendly this is. I can show the first screenshot on this, but not the second trailer video. Gamatsu has an article here. Omega Labyrinth Life debut trailer, dungeon RPG, due out August 1st in Japan. This is a dungeon crawling game. Remember, Omega Labyrinth Z was the first game to be banned from sale in the UK because there was a character in it that looked too young in one of their CG nude sex scenes. I think it might have been a bathing scene for all I know. Like a going out to the spa or to the hot springs type scene. So Omega Labyrinth has that air of pushing the limits and getting smacked back for pushing the limits too far, and it was always weird when people were talking about it. Okay, I've lost, so there goes the win streak. Let's move over to the Asian account. Like, people would talk about it, but then I really wasn't getting any direct descriptions or pictures of what was being deemed as offensive, so I couldn't tell if people were being hysterical or if there was something that was just extremely objectionable. Now, as for the trailer for this game, Omega Labyrinth Life, not Z, the trailer is showing off cleavage of anime girls and showing off each of the anime girls by showing their legs and their bust and then showing their face and their full body. So you kind of know where they're going with this series. Let's see. The last character I just saw was maybe slightly younger looking than all the others, but then I'd say all of them seem to be mostly falling under the standard of anime girls. But nothing here seems extremely young or extremely objectionable, and they're showing cleavage, but they're not showing actual busts. Of course, it took them quite a while to actually show what the game looked like, and the game just has a bunch of chibi anime 3D models wandering around. A more overworld, open world style RPG game, it looks like. There seems to be some farming mechanic where you're growing flowers. I'm not sure if they actually get into what you would properly call a dungeon. Let's see. What do I want to do here? Guess not too much, just let's make this our new favorite and move on. Alright, play 20 minions that cost 2 less. That would only require playing 1 more of those. Play 2 cards that cost 6 cards that cost 8 or more. I want to re-roll that, definitely. So play 13 cards that cost a certain amount. Guess what we're gonna do is play as the mage because of the spells. And we've got this Tavern Bar dynamic. This Omega Labyrinth Life is so focused on showing the cleavage. Half of this trailer is showing cleavage. And now they're showing off, you can put massagers in between the cleavage and vibrate them. I'm getting distracted at this point. I wanted to buy the solo adventure experience, and then I wanted to play the
The Bank of Dalaran.
I wanted to
You'll be
play
distracting all
the
the guards. We be taking magical.
I promised Rafam that we will win
Play-
over the merchant district by
this trailer
any
is so
means.
distracting. It is. I want to play as mage is what I'm trying to say. Gosh. I'm getting distracted by boobs in this trailer. Good thing I didn't show it. This is definitely beyond what I think Google wants to see and YouTube wants to see anymore. Yeah, this game does have the standard groping mini games. Alright, let's start this play ranked, and then I'm gonna come over here and stop watching this trailer because it is just going on forever and forever. It is also worth mentioning that Omega Labyrinth Life is being released in a more censored version for the PlayStation 4 under the title just Labyrinth Life, which is almost certainly not going to get as many sales because clearly they know that their selling point is the boobs, and if the boobs are gone, that's that.
Time runs out on me. I wonder.
Let's see. What do I need to do? Nothing? Alright, in the turn. Next we have a game on Steam called Radiant Arc. It's an RPG Maker game. It seems like it has a little bit of visual novel elements to it, but no, it's just an RPG Maker game. It's $5.39 discounted, English only. Yeah, 32 achievements seems a little high. Moving on. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Dungeon Maze from Sakura Game, which that's odd. Sakura Game is making this, but yeah, Dungeon Maze. I think it might need a little bit more research here because it seems like it might be a puzzle game. Let's see. Mouse and move attacks. Yeah, this is a slide puzzle, match 3, match 4 style game, like you must build a boat. Yeah, and then they have some anime girls and scantily clad clothing in the side. This is $1.19. Yeah, once seeing the anime girls, I realized what kind of game this was, and yeah, it's not making it to the follow list. Let's do this and do this.
Time runs out on me.
Let's move on to the next thing. I suppose it's somewhat worth mentioning that Susan Wojcicki, the CEO of YouTube, is celebrating 20 years at Google. She joined in May 1999 as employee 16, so she's been there a long time. And they gave her a cake with a big 20 on it, and this might be a California thing, but either they took a picture early before anybody else had cut into the cake, or nobody was actually eating the cake at all. I wouldn't be surprised if nobody was eating it for one reason or another. I guess that kind of does explain, when you see that she's been there since day one, it explains why she's got the job. It's just kind of nepotism, and what else are you gonna do? Either fire or leave her as a low-level employee, even though she's been there since the beginning.
Someday I'll be just like you.
There we go. Next we have a game on Steam called The Last Town, which looks like a tower defense game with some asset flips. What I'm seeing particularly here is a lot of garbage and a lot of numbers on the screen. That would be rather distracting. Seems like this might be a character in a nurse's outfit for a fetish reason. Doesn't look like much of a game or a very fun game though. Certainly. 99 cents. English and Chinese. Yeah. This seems like a low effort Chinese game if I was to guess. Randomly split amongst all enemies. And let's just take this.
Feeble mind.
Gamatsu has an article here. 2D action Metroidvania Lore Finder has been announced for the PS4, Switch, and PC. So another Metroidvania game. At this rate, we might have several Metroidvania style games coming out close together. This, by its screenshots, though, does not look particularly interesting. And frankly, this is just a hype announcement. So need to wait until it actually has a Steam page and an announcement and an actual release date. Apparently, it is also, according to this, a modern queer reimagining of cosmic horror genre. Like, I have no idea what the story is about. At that point. A girlfriend mode. Beat the game to unlock the mode, allowing you to play as Casey's girlfriend with all new powers and story. Okay. I really don't know how that word is being used in this case.
Aha! Aha!
Time runs out on me.
I'm gonna take this twin spell.
Aha! Aha!
I've given him so many cards, but it kind of doesn't matter. I can win next turn unless he can heal himself. Do I even need to talk about this game? Alright, I'll talk about it. Next we have a game on Steam called Alien Cow Farm. It seems like you play as an alien trying to abduct cows. There might be something to this. It's $9.99. Single player, multiplayer, local multiplayer. There might be an arcadey styled game on this, although it has 60 achievements, which makes it questionable and makes it feel like a low effort achievement game. I could play a game like this though, certainly. If somebody made a good version of that, where you're trying to abduct a certain number of cows under a certain amount of time. It seems like something that you could play. So I'll give this a follow, but almost certainly it's going to turn out to be just a achievement game. Alright. Okay, we're making progress. Yeah. We're making progress. So next we have Epic Store has updated its Epic Store roadmap. Apparently this is a website called Trello that they're using as a road mapping software or a scheduling software. I've never used Trello, I have no idea how this works. And frankly, I cannot really read any of this text over here. If this is kind of an example where a new site would do a good job to reread this roadmap and compare what has changed and what hasn't changed. The shopping cart still here is long term, so and you can't just drag this over to recently to near term. So the number one thing I would say the store needs before anything else is a shopping cart, and that they don't even seem to care about it. And not really a good time to update your roadmap when you're either still in the middle of your sale or your sale just happened and you would want that to last as the last bit of news about the Epic Store for a while. I imagine when E3 happens there will be a decent amount of conversation around the Epic Store, because I imagine there will be some games on the PC Gamer Show that are Epic Store exclusives. Next article, Gamma Sutra has this article, Game Bender console merges video games with kid-friendly programming. I saw kind of a commercial for this, and this is that Apple/Google visual programming interface. They're teaching kids this programming interface a lot. I don't know if it really is gonna work out well once kids can no longer have that and have to actually start just typing text. If this is the thing I saw they were talking about, there's a kind of Raspberry Pi. I'll look at the campaign page here, and this is Gamma Sutra talking about I did it again. Gamma Sutra talking about a Kickstarter project. Anyways, but here, yeah, it's kind of this Raspberry Pi thing with a controller and a camera, which I'm not sure parents in general would be interested in doing that. It's not really a Raspberry Pi, I'm sure, because of the layout, but which frankly, you might be better off doing that. This Kickstarter has already met its goal, and it was when did it come out? It has 27 days to go, so maybe it's been out for 3 days. So you're playing the game and at certain points I guess you can just pause the game and change the code. Yeah, I don't think this is gonna work or sell that well. this is the kind of project you don't need kickstarted, but you need Google or Apple behind it. And apparently there's some kind of cards
Time runs out
that
on me.
print out the code so you know what to type.
What to do?
But then I imagine you still have to put it into the program. You can't just hold the card up to the camera and have it scanned.
I let the dogs out.
And it comes with some red-blue 3D glasses. Interesting. They're gonna sell it for $350 also. Yeah, I don't think that you can trust that this game console is going to I played that terribly, actually. That was really bad. So do that, wait till next turn and kill it, I guess. Yeah, not something that I think parents should get into or schools should get into. The thing about schools teaching this stuff also is that a Kickstarter is definitely not a verified vendor for a school. So a school probably couldn't buy that product even if they wanted to, in the numbers, with the consistency, with the certainty that it could be fixed, repaired, or replaced when their students break it inevitably. Moving on, because we don't have a lot of time. TechRaptor has an article. Golden Gates is out now for Xbox One, PS4, and Nintendo Switch. Never heard of this game. From the screenshot, it doesn't look particularly interesting, and it doesn't seem like it's on PC. So I'll just leave it at that. Draw 2 cards. And do we have an elemental we could actually play this turn? No. Come on, load TechRaptor page. I guess maybe TechRaptor pages I should whitelist from the suspender plugin, because they do take a lot of time to load. I've been noticing that for a while.
Job's done.
TechRaptor has an article here. Larian Studios teases Baldur's Gate 3. So there might be a Baldur's Gate 3 coming out. They found that out because that was the name or the alt text of the image, and it's in the copyright of the HTML. Okay, yeah, Baldur's Gate 3. I'm not certain I want to play Baldur's Gate 1 or 2, but it's there. It's like, I guess we really need to see the actual announcement instead of an announcement or a tease of an announcement. Next article we have from Gamma Sutra: the former Gearbox VP has joined Nintendo to be the lead developer and publisher and lead of publisher relations. I believe this is John Vinocchi. I believe he was the one that left Gearbox, and Randy Pitchford actually wrote something nice and said, you'll always be missed. And he said he was leaving to take on a dream job. And I think working at a high level of Nintendo of America could be a dream job. It might turn into a nightmare job when you realize that their Nintendo of America is not really developing much of any games, and it being the publisher relations of Nintendo of America really just means you're being the secretary of the lead of publisher relations in Nintendo of Japan. Vinyaki, this article continues, spent just 7 months at Gearbox, having joined the Borderlands developer as the executive producer back in October 2018 to work on a new franchise. So before then he worked at Disney Interactive Studios, which shut down. So he is just really jumping around. And this is also a good example of just the nepotism in the video game industry. Is like this person basically was immediately hired when Disney Interactive shut down and by Gearbox, and given a job that didn't seem like it really meant anything or really was a job. He was just getting a paycheck for just being himself, it feels like, from the outside. That's what it looks like. And his influence or addition to Gearbox is basically nothing.
You asked for it.
Maybe he'll get his name in the credits of Borderlands 3, and that would be that. Also, if you've only worked at a job at 7 months and you leave for another job, pretty much means that the job didn't work out. And I don't know if that says more about John Vinyaki or if it says something about Gearbox in general. But yeah, I suppose good for him. He's moving around and maintaining employment and doing the things he needs to do to keep food on his table. He is also an executive,
I
so
hope you like my invention.
I don't think him being at any studio without knowing his management style, I don't know if that means anything at all. Come on, attack. I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see a bunch of people getting new jobs after E3, because I suspect a lot of the higher up people get together and do secret job interviews during E3.
Job's done.
Let's see, TechRaptor has an article here which I will just mention. It's Nutaku's Sassy Squad blends tower defense and real-time strategy. I guess I can show this much of it. I recently found out that Nutaku's parent company is the same parent company as Pornhub, and Nutaku does have a advertising agreement with TechRaptor. Nutaku's still not really putting out any amazingly interesting games from my perspective, though, because they're making their own games. I was one short. I believe we already looked at this game, but TechRaptor has an article. The collectible card game World of Mist is released on early access, and TechRaptor is talking about it. So I doubt World of Mist is going to be the next big card game, though. I just don't think there's enough funding.
What to do?
I'm starting to feel like the odds are higher that it will be Magic the Gathering Arena that is the big time potential replacement for Hearthstone. Also, there is a possibility that there is just no replacement for Hearthstone, and people just stop playing card games. Let's see.
Job's done.
210 cost minions for 3 mana, sure.
I got the best deals anywhere.
Next we have a game on Steam called Smile for Me, which looks like a crazy, weird game of some sort. This is one of those weird games that I think I'm just going to have to put on the follow list to see if people like it. Looks like there's enough animation and work here that this isn't just a asset flip. It's $11.04 right now discounted, and it has full English support. 24 achievements, it's a reasonable amount. So yeah, that just needs to go to the follow list. You silence this guy and he's just playing spells to get to draw cards. He's playing probably some strategy for Mechathune. Otherwise I have no idea what he's doing. Jeez, the exact same page open twice next to each other. Okay. Let's play this and let's play this and let's play that.
Job done.
Well, I could win if I just play all my cards and draw 19 more cards. Let's see. Everybody's gonna attack a random minion.
Is someone injured?
Let's see, play
Someday I'll be
this.
just like you.
What am I trying to do right now? Am I trying to just play cards or am I trying to win? I think I'm just trying to play spells. Next we have a game on Steam called Where's My Family, which looks like it's probably a low effort asset flip game trying to be a mystery adventure game where you're playing as this badly animated boy. But when you look at this scene, for instance, it's just really, really bad graphics. $8.99, third-party EULA, English and French, full audio French. Yeah, not my level of quality there. Let's see what this does. And just play these spells.
Oh, wow.
See, next we have a game on Steam called Mard, M-A-R-D. What is this, a walking simulator? It looks like a walking simulator. It looks kind of fancy, but it might just be an asset flip game too. Oh, there's some kind of screen there with some kind of resources. It's discounted to $3.24. It's full audio English and Swedish and 20 achievements. Again, probably walking simulator, probably not worth it, but I'll put it on the follow list just because I kind of want to know. Alright, so we do this, and then we damage this, and then they do this. We do that.
Job done.
I guess because this only does 1 damage after you cast a spell, it's not affected by things that have spell damage plus 2. Okay. Draw some more cards. Discover the spell. Draw some more cards. Spell damage. See, if I had done 8 damage. It's just playing the same guy over and over again. Well, I can't lose stars at that rank level, so that's not a problem. So what's our final thing we need to do is 12 minions that cost 5 or more. See what happens if I play Paladin to do that. TechRaptor has an article here. Fallout Shelter Online evolves Bethesda Vault building game, but only in China. When did Fallout Shelter become Fallout Shelter Online? Anyways, that's my first question. What's being shown here looks nothing like Fallout Shelter. This looks like Fallout Shelter, and this is definitely content that was added after I stopped playing Fallout Shelter. Fallout Shelter sequel that we can't play. Essentially, Fallout Shelter Online is a serious expansion on the gameplay mechanics that already exist in Fallout Shelter. Social features are being added. It seems like there's a whole game here that they're adding to it. Interesting. I guess maybe they're doing kind of a soft launch in China, and maybe if it succeeds, they'd bring it to the rest of the world. Or maybe this is just because people booed mobile games and don't want mobile games. I totally get it too. It like really makes sense that the last thing you would want is more bad press from Bethesda. And if you've seen other people getting upset when AAA game developers announce a mobile game, the last thing you would want to do is announce a mobile game and say, yeah, we've updated and made a sequel to Fallout Shelter. I wouldn't be surprised if they do release an English version of it at E3, but it probably would just be a sentence, and it has to be after all of the announcements they could possibly say about the next Elder Scrolls game and the next Fallout game, and how they're going to fix Fallout 76 and all the other problems that they're trying to do. I also wouldn't be surprised if the Fallout Shelter Online is an attempt to take the back-end servers that are running Fallout 76 and use them for something else, because Fallout 76 is such a failure. That could be also what they're doing. Could be just they already rented the server time, or they already own the servers. Next, we have an article from TechRaptor. 2 new Team 17 game announcements are coming next week. Odd that that's next week, because then that would be a little bit before E3, not during E3. I have no idea, though, what Team 17 could be working on. They're probably not making a new Worms World Party game. They're probably not making anything that you would expect. They sold, I think, the rights completely for Prison Architect, so they're probably not making a Prison Architect style game. So it could be two very, very different games in fields that it's questionable if Team 17 would be able to make games good in those fields, since Team 17 is mostly known for making
I can't do that.
games that look fine if in the 2D perspective, but don't look particularly amazing like hyper-realistic AAA games or anything like that. It's always been 2D simulation games. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article. Harvest Moon Mad Dash has been announced as part of Natsume's E3 2019 lineup. The last Harvest Moon game that was made wasn't particularly well received. The company that owns the rights to Harvest Moon is not the development team that made Harvest Moon in the past. So this is probably, if I was to guess, another game just using that label to make some more sales. As for what this game looks like, it looks like a farming simulator and having to move even faster than average on a farming simulator game is not something that I would particularly welcome. So that's something that I'm like not enthusiastic about. GameIndustry.biz has an article, 10 years after Farmville, Zynga's still standing, opinion piece, if you want to read that. I have no time for opinion pieces anymore. We have a game here on Steam called Ports of Call Classic, which might be an old game getting re-released. That being said, I don't remember ever hearing about this game, and it doesn't look particularly interesting or particularly good. It's $4.99 with no discount. If you have nostalgia for Ports of Call, maybe this would interest you, but for me, I'm not even going to bother to put it on the wish list. How did they do that?
You may pass before me.
Let's see.
The light protects me.
For justice.
I was right about to win, and somehow he figured out a way to kill my guy. Next we have a game on Steam called Esper Make You Live Again. It's a visual novel game. Animation doesn't look particularly amazing. Yeah, not seeing anything surprising here. I've never heard of this developer publisher. $7.19 discounted. It's English and French, which is an interesting combination, certainly, of languages for a visual novel. But my standards, particularly against visual novels, have gone up, and that's not going to make it to the fall list. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Metro Sim Hustle, which seems like a simulation of riding the metro and going to several different locations and just living in kind of like New York. Although some might argue that grocery store is too well stocked to be New York and this apartment is too big to be New York. But a large metropolitan area of some sort. This is early access for $15.99. It's full audio English. I'm going to put this on the follow list because it needs a little bit more research on what is actually happening here. The game is tagged for nudity, so it seems like you can go to a strip joint at some point.
Close the gates!
I fight.
He lost anyways. Look at this, he turned all of his cards into legendaries and still lost. I assume this guy had a watch and learn. So is he going to send me a challenge a friend? Is that what he's gonna do, or is he? What did he just have a watch and learn? Let's think about that for a second. And while we're thinking about that, we have Crumple Zone on Steam. Looks like a Demolition Derby style game. It doesn't look terrible as a / Demolition Derby / racing game. It doesn't look great either, and racing games do kind of have this hyper-realistic element that is required of them. Yeah, I don't think this needs to be on the follow list, quite frankly, because the graphics just aren't that good. $19.99, no discount, full audio English. I'm gonna leave this and think about putting it on the follow list, but I may not actually put it on the follow list, and that happens sometime. Clearly, he wasn't going to send me a friend request, so let's get back to playing Paladin. Actually, let's go back to playing Mage, because I think I played more of the cards I needed to play playing Mage. Yeah, sometimes I'll say, yeah, the game is going to a fault list, and then I look at it a second time and go, no, actually it isn't. Next we have a game called Miss Holmes, The Monster of the Baskervilles Collector's Edition. This is from Big Fish Games. Hidden object game where you're playing as a female Sherlock Holmes equivalent. $13.99? No, $12.59. I guess the price has gone down for hidden object games. Even the collector's editions. So, yeah. I'm still not playing hidden object games, so I've had my fill, I think, for a lifetime. Right, this next one is tagged sexual content and nudity, so let me check to see if this is YouTube family friendly. In the screenshots, it seems like it is. So, next we have a game called Sankaku Rene Love Triangle Trouble. It's a bunch of anime girls in a love square / triangle. Looks like your standard romance visual novel style game. Let's see. I'm just gonna end the turn. It's selling for $26.99 discounted, which is a high price, which makes me suspect that there actually might be a good quality visual novel. And for that reason, I'm going to put it on the fall list and see if it actually is something that comes about and is well received. Again, I'm not certain how many, if any, visual novels I'd actually cover on my YouTube channel or how I would go about it. I could point out I kind of like the variety here. Different skin tones, different hairstyles, different hair colors at least. It seems like the hairstyles are all pretty long. You have a male looking character that's actually being shown, which often is not the case. We have the characters seeming to all somewhat like each other and not just immediately hate each other or see each other as romantic rivals. So this seems like this is a more fun-centric style of story. And let's see, let's play that. And do that. Let's see. Next, we have a game called Wings of Change, the opening act. I swear I've seen this game before, though. Winds of Change. It's clearly a furry game, anthropomorphic animals. It's not really tagged with any nudity or sexual content, so there may not actually be any romance here. It may just be anthropomorphic animals are the characters in this world, which was at one time something that you could get away with. This is free, so I think what this is a free demo of another game, basically, Winds of Change. So if I go and look at Winds of Change, we'll get a general idea of what's going on. Let's get a general idea of how well Winds of Change looks. Winds of Change is rated very positively, and it is on my follow list, but I don't see any reason to put a demo that is being sold as a demo, sold as not a demo, but being sold as a standalone product. I don't know why you'd want to do it that way, other than to hide the fact that they are still in early access. So Winds of Change here came out March 21st, 2018. It's rated very positively, but it's been over a year, right? Is my math wrong there? It's been over a year and it's still in early access. So that's a problem. That is definitely a problem. Making a demo version of your game and selling it as a free game.
What to do?
At the very least, a little deceptive in advertising. TechRaptor has an article here. Crackdown 3 Extra Edition update gives players even more power. I'm interested in this. The free content update for the superpowered police force dials things up to 11, maybe even 12, with several new additions, including new achievements, powerful new skills, and a bunch of fun new tools. Alright, that's probably a great thing to have. You know, just more content, more things to do for Crackdown 3. I don't know if that really saves Crackdown 3 or makes it more desirable to play. I think part of what makes Crackdown 3 kind of fail is the fact that it's just more Crackdown. Let's see. And looking at this trailer for the Extras Edition, it feels like what they're trying to push Crackdown 3 into is being more like a Gary's Mod style game, which is a cool idea, but not really what Crackdown is all about. That being said, the idea of letting you customize the characters with new skins, which is what they're showing off right now in the trailer, is not bad. And the idea of consistently adding content to Crackdown 3 and supporting it more is something that's just always going to go forward, instead of what they did with Crackdown 1 and Crackdown 2, which was make it feel like there might be a sequel, there might not. Depends on the whims of Microsoft. But yeah, I would like to see more story and better story in Crackdown 3. A new solo player set of missions and more varied missions to do. Something that really overhauled what you needed to do to play the main part of the game. Because it was the repetitive missions and the controls that people were complaining about, if I recall correctly.
Science overwhelmed.
Let's see. TechRaptor has an article here. The rhythmic Zelda Dungeon Crawler Cadence of Hyrule launches in June. Do we have a exact date in June that's coming out? I don't think so. But yeah. Crypt of the Necrodancer and Zelda combined game coming out in June. I don't think... I suspect actually this will be a game that a lot of the mainstream video game journalists talk a lot about, and then it gets kind of a mediocre amount of coverage or purchases. That I wouldn't be surprised if there's slightly underwhelming sales for it. Komatsu has an article. Rebellion announces its E3 2019 lineup. They'll be showing off Evil Genius 2. Interesting, because Evil Genius 1 is like a 10-year-old game at least. Apparently Evil Genius 2 was announced June 2017. They'll also be showing off Sniper Elite VR and a new major unannounced title. Well, I'll be interested to see if Rebellion can do a good job with that and have an interesting announcement and release a interesting product.
Someday I'll be just like you.
Let's see. Talk about that. TechRaptor has an article here. Updated PlayStation Plus price reportedly increasing in Japan and Europe. Let's see what the update. The update to PlayStation price increase now also includes China, according to Nico Partners senior analyst Daniel Ahmed on Twitter. So apparently PlayStation Plus prices going up in Japan. I don't see how PlayStation of Japan would ever want to do that. Going up in apparently a lot of countries in Europe, I could see doing that. And going up in China, I don't see why you'd do that. This feels like another mistake or bad business decision by Sony Interactive Entertainment out of California. They can't really say much more than that. It feels like a bad decision. Next we have a Gematsu article. She and the Lightbearer is coming to Switch on June 6th. I've never heard of this game. It first launched on PC in January. Interesting. What is this trailer? Well, I guess I could have gone full screen. I don't tend to want to go to full screen though. Why did it do that? I clicked the play button, didn't I? It doesn't even want to load. Alright, let's come over here and play. So, what is this game? She and the Lightbearer. Looks like a storybook art style. And I'm seeing a lot of text. And I'm not seeing really any gameplay mechanic or characters. Well, I guess I'm gonna try and figure out what this game is and if it's on Steam. She and the Lightbearer.
What to do? What to do?
It's probably nothing. Gematsu has another article here. Digimon Survive 15-minute developer diary, which would be 15 minutes of somebody talking to the screen, basically. Although Digimon Survive, looking at this animation, is actually kind of impressive. It's coming out for the PlayStation 4 and Switch in Japan, and the PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC in 2019. But yeah, this is just going to be people talking to the screen the whole time with maybe a few cutscenes. Not sure if I want a Digimon game where it is character placement, tactical gameplay. It seems really slow for a Digimon game, which is, I assume, for supposed to be targeted to kids. TechRaptor has an interesting story here. There is a rumor that a Borderlands 2 DLC is dropping during E3. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if it's some small bit of content for Borderlands 2 just to promote Borderlands 3. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if it's kind of nothing more than that. Also, Chris Hardwick was hired to do something for Borderlands 3, and Chris Hardwick's ex-girlfriend was upset and wrote some nasty tweets, maybe a nasty article, about him getting work after her failed attempt to ruin his career. Now, I think there is possibly some fault on both sides, but it does seem like what happened is that Chris Hardwick, when he was with that his ex-girlfriend Chloe Dykstra, I believe is her name's, I believe that he in a bad way kind of crossed the line between professional and romantic interest. I think he had a romantic interest to want to hang out and do things with his girlfriend, and because he was influential in TV and in the TV industry, he was able to get her jobs and get her to work with him.
What shall we hunt?
And once they broke up, he stopped getting her jobs, and she's claiming she's blacklisted. And I think it's very much closer to no, you were nobody before, you were nobody then. It's just you happen to be the girlfriend of somebody who wanted to work with you, and I think he did kind of unethically get her, did some nepotism, did some cronyism to get her jobs, and I think probably Chris Hardwick does have some personality problems, as most people in California have personality problems. That being said, him getting a job is to work for Gearbox has nothing to do with anything. And your ex-girlfriends really shouldn't be capable or allowed or trying to ensure you never get work again. So yeah, this TechRaptor article about this rumored Borderlands 2 DLC is supposedly this DLC will act as a bridge between the second and third Borderlands games. The title offers some hints at the content, Lilith being a playable vault hunter from the original Borderlands and recurring characters including in the upcoming Borderlands. Sanctuary is the name of a city, a colossal mining ship that sits atop what does it sit atop? Isn't it floating in the sky at the end of Borderlands 2? Sanctuary 3 is a set of set to feature in Borderlands 3. Really didn't think that the entire city would move from planet to planet.
Science overwhelming.
You know, the number one thing that could happen and would be great if it did happen, it would be if you could play as at least 3 of the 4 original characters in Borderlands, from Borderlands 1 and Borderlands 2, and Borderlands 3 allowed you to play as those characters again in Borderlands 3. That would be great. And if I could, on top of that idea, import my save files from Borderlands 1 to Borderlands 2. That would be great too. That being said, even if Borderlands 2 DLC does drop, and that is an attempt to hype players into buying Borderlands 3, it's still an Epic Store exclusive, and for that reason alone, it's not in a position that I want it to be in, or not on the storefront that I want it to be in. So I wouldn't buy it. So 6 months from the release of Borderlands 3, maybe then I'll buy it. But maybe not even then. I probably still would. Almost certainly still would. But I'm hearing as more and more controversy comes around Borderlands 3, more people are starting to think about not buying it at all. And that's a hard choice to make, certainly. But it may not be that hard if it turns out that the game is not good. I want it to be good, but it's possible it's not. Next we have a game on Steam called There the Light. And we're having a lot of games that are not proper English sentences. It seems like this is a puzzle game of some sort. It doesn't look terrible. It might be super short, it might be mostly just walking around and doing simple puzzles. It's $9.99, English only, 2 achievements. Yeah, this deserves to be on the fall list for a while.
Science overwhelming.
There we go. See. Next we have a game on Steam called Kumakure, which looks like a 8-bit game. What is this? Is this a card game? Or 2D action game that defeats enemies while jumping? Seems like it's kind of a Mega Man clone. This also feels like this is a Mega Man clone trying to sell something else. It's $3.99 discounted, English and Japanese. I guess I'm gonna be generous and put this on the fall list as a simplistic Mega Man clone. This Kodakawa Corporation, I believe, is a... Nope. According to this is the first game they've ever published. Have they developed any other games? Yeah, the Yumaniki Dream Diary. Which is this is the new one that wasn't well received. So it's kind of a series of a couple of games that are questionable here. What do I need to do? We can play this, and we can play this and get a victory and move forward. Yeah, I'm really stretching it though, putting Kumakure on the fall list. That's really not making it to the level of quality it should. But it does feel like a game I need to research a little bit more. I still need to play 4 more minions that are expensive. TechRaptor has an article, Senran Kagura Peach Ball coming to the Switch and PC, Reflections coming to PC June 24th. So here's Peach Ball, a pinball with the Senran Kagura Ninja anime girls in it. And here I think is Reflections, which is more of a visual novel with a, I believe,
it is on.
Heavy focus on massage and reflexology, aka groping minigame. So yeah, they're not coming to the PS4 is the main thing to take from that when the Senran Kagura games kind of up until this point have been coming to the PS4 with no problem. Next we have a game on Steam called Final Adventure, which looks like a RPG Maker game, so I don't need to spend much more time on it. It's not English supported at all, discounted to $6.99, and it's French. I don't know why we're seeing so many French games. You know, like we've seen a lot of games today that are in French or support French. Next we have a game called E06 Anomaly, which looks like an archery game, and that does catch my attention a little bit more. This could be an asset flip game with a bow and arrow, but I haven't seen any asset flip games with bows and arrows. In a weird way, this is maybe a Turok clone. It seems like you're gonna solve puzzles with your bow and get different types of bows. As a person who did archery in his past, this is an interesting idea. $11.99 is probably too expensive. English and German in the language. There's nothing too suspicious about that. There we go. So yeah, I'm gonna put that on the follow list. Next we have a game on Steam called Secondhand Frankie's Revenge, which, what is this? A top-down twin-stick shooter game where you're playing as robots made out of junk, for best I can tell. Early access for $16.99 or $15.99, full English audio. I've almost certainly run out of emotional energy to make decisions anymore. I'm gonna put this on the follow list. It probably doesn't deserve to be on the follow list. We need to start wrapping up at this point. Also, next one is tagged nudity.
For the king.
So So next we have a game called Kotodama, The Seven Mysteries of Fujisawa. I believe I heard this was coming out. It looks like it is a Match 3 Honey Pop style clone directly. It's from P-Cube Limited. It's $29.99. I'm already following it. It's English with full audio Japanese. Yep. So we don't need to do anything with it. Just leave it on the follow list and see where it goes.
What to do? What to do?
If I do this first, and then do this, and then do this next,
Time runs out on me.
and then do this next, make an in return. Then next we have a game on Steam called Protogenesis. This looks like it's just a low effort, low polygon game. I wouldn't even call it an asset flip game. It just looks like a low effort game in general. $5.99. Feels like it would be a VR game, but there's no mention of VR at all in it. It is thoroughly unimpressive visually, and as such I'm not going to give it any more consideration. Let's see. GameIndustry.biz has an article. The Migration Advisory Committee recommends games roles to be added to the UK shortage list. body calls for programmers, artists, producers, directors, and more to be prioritized when considering immigration applications. Now, immigration is not a work visa, so unless they mean something different in the UK, this would be people with skills and abilities applying to actually move to the UK, not just to work, but to be there for the long term. It doesn't particularly have too much to do with people seeking asylum from the Middle East or any other country who don't really have too much to contribute, or at least don't have anything that's that obvious to contribute to society. That being said, the reason why there is a migration advisory committee in the first place probably is because it is not as easy as it possibly could be to move to the UK. Meanwhile, Brexit is still a mess. But it does point out, at least from the video game perspective, that yeah, there's not enough programmers and not enough video game makers in the UK to the liking of the UK. That being said, the one thing there, until the UK embraces free speech and moves away from their censorship rules and laws and their extreme privacy laws that lead to censorship in some cases, it's really hard to try to make a game in the UK. And that's why it doesn't happen that much. There's really only about 3 or 4 companies that I can think of. Can I win this? Let's see this.
We hunger for vengeance.
I should have played this, actually. Next, we have an article from TechRaptor. New Darksiders leaked by E3, reportedly called Darksiders Genesis. Game is promising to take the franchise in a, quote, fresh direction. Current rumors are to be believed the game will be titled Darksiders Genesis. It sounds suspiciously like a prequel to them. I don't know what you do with a prequel to the Darksiders series until the Darksiders series is completely finished. Like, I don't know why you do anything except for finish the Darksiders series first, and then you try to make a prequel, and then you start a new trilogy or quadrilogy, as it were. And I guess I'm just mostly hoping it is not a mobile game or something like that. Not something that is completely unwelcome and unwanted, or that somehow completely destroys the story, what's left of the credibility of the story of the Darksiders series. Moving on, GameIndustry.biz has an article. Twitch adds mandatory 2-factor authentication to prevent non-game streams. New policy follows the weekend of trolls using Artifact channel to broadcast porn and sports. I didn't hear anything about this as this was going on, but apparently it was pretty big, and it certainly shows. What's weird about this is, in retrospect, if Twitch was willing to force everybody to use 2-factor authentication, if that was to stream, which is a fine rule, I'm surprised YouTube doesn't do it, quite frankly. And the reason they're doing that, I assume, is because they are getting your phone number one way or the other, and then thus finding a way to hunt you down and identify you for if you do something wrong. But if they were willing to do that today, why not do that a week ago, before this problem happened? Why not be a little bit more authoritarian and controlling and say, no, everybody has to use 2-factor authentication if they want to stream? I could see not putting that extra burden on people who are just making accounts on Twitch to watch streams, but increasing security should always be a #1 factor in consideration. It would have been so much better if they had done this a week earlier and avoided that whole drama. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called 11th Dream, which I am not so far impressed with. It looks like it's probably just asset flip first-person shooter game. It's tagged as a level editor, as if that should be a major tag anybody uses. Looking at this video, I'm unimpressed. It's early access for $11.99. Yep. And it says make AI great again, so it seems like a troll game based on that statement alone. Let's see. If we do this, then we could do this.
Science overwhelmed.
And then we could do this. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Time Walker with a bunch of Asian characters in front of it. It's probably a low effort Chinese game. It looks like a survival game. It's early access according to the tags. Very unimpressive looking asset flip. English not supported. $11.99 for a Chinese language. Yeah, no surprise there. Although I would like to point out that at least today so far there has been very few low effort Chinese games, so maybe they took a break for a while. Maybe we can hope at least that's the case. TechRaptor has an article. The Tanglewood Dreamcast port goes on hiatus. Tanglewood being a PC game that promised, in I think it was a Kickstarter game, to make a Dreamcast port, and that was a stupid promise, and now they're going back on that. I think they did make a Mega Drive port also, so that they're making games using the old programming language so it would work on the Mega Drive as well as work on PC. I'm pretty sure it's on PC. But there's really no reason why you would program your game to run on the old Mega Drive consoles. It is such a silly idea. Let's see. Just freeze this guy while we're doing that. I don't think too many people who didn't Kickstart or support Tanglewood or who didn't buy it are going to be upset that the Dreamcast port is going on hiatus and almost certainly is never going to get finished, but the people who are going to be upset about it are going to be pretty upset about it. Game & Sutra has an article, a report. The VR AR company Leap Motion has been sold to Ultra Haptics for $30 million. Leap Motion, I felt like, was potentially the right technology for PC gaming, but it didn't really feel like it was getting done in a good way or finalized product style. Let's go ahead and hit this. So maybe if Ultra Haptics does buy Leap Motion, then they will be able to do something with their technology and continue developing it and improving it. I don't know how you get a Leap Motion or any kind of new controller in the hands of PC gamers unless it is also built into either an Xbox or a PlayStation. So that would have been an interesting technology to integrate into the PlayStation 5 controller or the Xbox 2's controller, where you could just put down the controller and it would be able to sense your fingers on top of that. Although that would be a weird gameplay mechanic, but maybe you could take your hand off one side of the controller and then turn a doorknob or pick a lock or something with just one hand. That might be something. It would be an interesting idea, at least. Let's see. Next article we have from TechRaptor: DICE to cut 2 base game modes from Battlefield 5. Let's see, what are they? Let's see. Basically, they're going to cut out game modes, I imagine, and then resell them to you. Let's see. Let's see. Removal of underpopulated game modes in the hopes of getting new and redesigned ones in the future. Is how it's being described. So Battlefield 5 already is out. It's the bad Battlefield that nobody wanted to play. So now it is losing content on top of everything else. Let's go ahead and hit that. Hit that. Yeah, I don't think too many people are actually playing Battlefield 5 anyway, so who cares? Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called BRG's Alice in Wonderland visual novel. It looks badly animated and seems like it is just telling Alice in Wonderland and kind of nothing else. I can't remember correctly, but it kind of feels like this might have been just them reselling a game that already has been on Steam too. $5.39. This is definitely not to the level of quality that I'd want on the follow list. I would like to do Alice in Wonderland, but that's not. It's not really going to get me any extra views or anything. Get my starting hand back so I can reduce the cost of an elemental down to 0 and play it.
Science overwhelmed.
Job's done.
Next game we have on Steam is called BRG's The Stonecutter, which is probably a Chinese story that I don't recognize. So they're flooding the Steam marketplace by releasing games at the same time. $2.99, no discount on this. I have no idea who BRG is. Next we have BRG's Red Riding Hood for $1.99, flooding the Steam market. Oh, this will be good if these are just all BRG links left, because I'd like to wrap up and end this stream, even though we're still struggling to play the last couple of expensive cards. There's another one. Next we have a game on Steam called Moonrise Fall, which looks like it's a game. Wow, I don't even know. I don't know if this is a top-down twin-stick shooter or a platformer or an exploration game or what. It says it's an atmospheric exploration puzzle game. Okay. $13.49 discounted. I'll put it on the follow list. It might be good, it might be bad. Game of Sutra has an article. Games on the Google Play Store now are required to disclose loot box odds. Seems like the rules are getting tightened quite a bit, or the rules got tightened a lot in one smooth motion, and people just wrote several articles about it.
We hunger for vengeance.
I was one short. If I had just done one more damage, I would have won. Alright. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna leave these games that are left to talk about on and just talk about the news and work our way towards that. An 8-bit open-world RPG called Artifact Adventure Guide DX for Switch launches June 6th, if that's interesting to anybody. And let's see. TechRaptor has a Warhammer Chaos Bane review, Diablo Hammer. What did they give it? 7.0, very good. It's a fun and satisfying hack and slash with enough combat variety and hotkey charm to make it this casual Diablo-like worth a look. It's pulpy, satisfying combat, rewarding progression, fun and silly characters. Its cons are environments, lack variety, not enough to do post-game, and frequent audio glitches. So I'll consider putting Chaos Bane on the follow list. And with that we are done with the daily quests. So I'm gonna just see if I have any other bits of news worth talking about, and I think that there is at least one story we need to cover. TechRaptor has this article. The heavy metal band Iron Maiden is suing 3D Realms over the trademark for Ion Maiden, a game that I thought was already out but apparently isn't. That being said, the phrase Iron Maiden in general is a torture device from like the Spanish Inquisition, so I'm not sure how much of this trademark lawsuit would actually hold water, but they're trying to disauthorize, I suppose, the trademark or dissolve the trademark of Ion Maiden, which I don't see how 3D Realms didn't see this coming along. Quite frankly, I don't know how their lawyers cleared this as an idea. Iron Maiden is an interesting name, certainly, but you could have found a better name and a different name easily. So, well, this is just the beginnings of a lawsuit. A trademark dispute, frankly, and it'll take years before we see it actually iron itself out. Game of Sutra has an article. Microsoft is bringing Xbox Games Pass to Windows PC. Some confusion still, I think, as far as, is this going to be when you have the Xbox Games Pass and there is a free game that comes along with that, will it be the same game on PC as the game that comes on the Xbox One always, or sometimes, or never? Because it could be any and all of the above options, or it could be different games. I could see PC games being given out, 2 PC games every month and 2 Xbox games coming out. The only slight concern I have here is with Microsoft bringing games in the Games Pass to the PC. This is 2 separate things. They're bringing their games to Steam They're bringing the Games Pass service to PC. I assume the Games Pass service may only work with the Microsoft Store still. So even if you do get a free game, you're probably not going to get it on Steam. The only thing I would want to be certain about is if that then turns into a scenario that Microsoft surprises everybody and says, oh, actually we're not making a PlayStation, we're not making an Xbox 2, we're just going straight PC and we're giving up on consoles. I don't think that would be good for the game market. TechRaptor has an article here. Northgard is coming to the Nintendo Switch, PS4, Xbox One later this year. This game, Northgard, if you're any interested in it. There were so many hype articles like that, though, that I needed to work my way around and through. Here's another story that's worth mentioning. TechRaptor has an article. Game Workers Unite is taking action against Blizzard. Of course, Game Workers Unite is really still not getting to the point of actually becoming an actual union. It doesn't feel like they've done the paperwork or going about it the right way. And even if they did become a union, they certainly wouldn't be a union that represents the employees in Blizzard, as Blizzard is hemorrhaging employees and then would probably justifiably just shut its doors completely before allowing union representation. But they're apparently trying to sue because of the 800 employees being laid off, or trying to help people sue because of the people laying off. We've yet to really see Game Workers Unite as an organization be effective at much, and it will probably be a long time before they are effective, because these things just don't, they're not easy, and they don't just happen. It takes a lot of work, a lot of fighting, and sometimes some actual pickets and fights and riots to happen, because yeah, it's an actual conflict. Let's see. TechRaptor has an article. Nutaku's desktop client leaves beta and enables auto updating. So if you're using the desktop client for the Nutaku adult game storefront, you're probably happy about that. Let's see. I think we may have already talked about this, but we'll talk about it again. TechRaptor has an article. Sony is facing the Australian court over consumer rights violations. I believe this is their refund policy as far as Australian. No, it's Australian. Yeah, Australian court. Yeah. Yeah, their refund policy people are not happy with, so they're getting sued. And do we have anything else? GameIndustry.biz has an article. Google introduces stricter family policies to protect younger players. Android developers now need to declare their target audience and ensure their title does not unintentionally attract children, which is good, I suppose. That being said, I don't think Google really is in a place where they can clean up the Google Play Store without doing a lot of excising of games. And potentially you kind of have to start from scratch and just say, we're going to look at every single game and we're going to curate every single game in at least the kids section and make sure everything is appropriate and stays appropriate, and we're going to look at every single update and investigate it. And that's just a lot of time and money. Let's see, Gamatsu has an article. Action-adventure RPG Shattered Tale of the Forgotten King launches via Steam Early Access on June 4th. This looks like this might be an interesting game. So we'll see. But I guess it's not even out yet, so I don't need to do anything. It's a hype article. Again, and I am skipping over games. So Let's see. Matsu has an article here. Devil Engine Ignition expansion announced. I've never even heard of the game Devil Engine. It looks interesting. I'll have to look it up. And I just got so much work to do. On top of all of this, like on top of just looking at games, there's the wish list, the fall list cleanup, and just need to take a general break. I've been recording so much this week. I'm exhausted. Gamatsu has an article here. Square Enix to publish Dying Light 2, which is interesting. It's surprising Square Enix would be the publisher when Techland is its own publisher. So apparently Techland has decided that their own publishing division is not good enough to sell the sequel to their successful Dying Light series. Or Square Enix had like a first right of refusal via some contract, and that's why they're publishing it. That might be the case, I suppose. And I can't even get to the end of the tabs. That's how bad it is right now. Like, oops, just knocked my controller over because I was grabbing my keyboard. I'm gonna have to use Control Tab to see if there's anything else that needs to be mentioned. GameIndustry.biz gives 5 to launch on Steam as Xbox opens up to other PC stores. Xbox Game Studio titles will now launch on multiple PC stores to provide, quote, choices in where you buy your PC games. Frankly, what this really means is Microsoft knows that it wouldn't sell if it was a Windows Store exclusive, and they want it to actually sell. Let's see, what happens if I do that? I guess that works. You can hit Control W to close the Chrome tab you're on. I just learned that. Ubisoft announces its E3 2019 lineup. It's going to be The Division 2, For Honor, Ghost Recon, Rainbow Six Siege, game updates, and some other garbage for the most part. Nothing super surprising in that announcement. And finally I got to the Humble Bundle store. But yeah, tons of things. It doesn't look like there is a new bundle out, which makes sense. I wouldn't be surprised if there's no new bundles coming until the E3 has happened. And yes, over the course of the last 3 hours or so, we've gotten some new games that came out to Steam. I'm gonna have to just do some cleanup and look at some of the games off the and maybe I'll save them and talk about them on Monday, or maybe I won't. Call of Duty Modern Warfare will not include a zombies mode according to this tweet I'm looking at, which, okay, I guess that's fine. Mortal Kombat announced Night Wolf, Sindel, and Spawn as DLC characters. Let's see. Square Enix trademarks Collection of Mana in Europe, which might be a Secret of Mana collection of games. And yeah, I think that's all the updates we have. We started late today, and it was a pretty sleepy stream, even from day one. Come on, where's the Alt tab where I need it? Oh, I have to actually hit Alt tab and not Control tab. That's the problem. yeah, we started off as a sleepy stream. We talked to Lemon Lover for a while and had a nice little conversation. A pretty good Friday stream. Usually nobody watches and nobody chats on Friday. So maybe next week I'll try and start at a more early time frame. But that's it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist, or gift me a gift card. Remember, the Steam Summer Sale is coming, and that'd be a great time to support this channel. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.